Welcome back to Ben Salutes. And when I was a kid, nobody gave a crap about England's princesses. Well, except for Diana. But at least she was hot. Anyway, you may remember from my old account when I made a video called Ben's Nostalgia Cartoon Network, where I saluted Cartoon Network and I explained how it shaped who I am today. Well, I think it's a good idea to go back to talking about how great the greatest channel ever made was. So, get ready to be whacked out. Here's my second salute on Cartoon Network. Before I start saluting it, I like to point out that Cartoon Network started out on October 1st, 1992. Well, that's 13 days before I was born. Nothing really important. I just think it's cool that my favorite channel is 312 hours older than me. Anyway, what made Cartoon Network the best channel ever was that it was the first ever network dedicated strictly to cartoons. Of course, this was really risky at the time due to the fact animation was turning into a kid's medium. The idea of a channel that showed nothing but cartoons was just insane to think of at that time. However, it proved the critics wrong, thanks to William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, and Ted Turner for creating this channel and making it work. In your face, critics. Seeing as how I'm such an enormous fan of cartoons, Cartoon Network just felt like a safe haven for me. I'm glad that I was growing up at the time when it was developing, because, in my opinion, it was really at its best. I'll get into greater detail about that later. Anyway, I only wish I was older when this was around, so I could fully appreciate its epicness. Oh well. Anyway, now that you have a good idea about how awesome Cartoon Network is, how about I review Cartoon Network shows? Oh yeah, that's right, I did that in the other video. However, there are some I glanced over. So, how about we start with those? Here's the What a Cartoon Show. This was Cartoon Network's show that allowed young animators to get their start and create their own cartoons. And, of course, the cartoons were amazing. Really wacky, really fast-paced, and really funny. Of course, the cartoons were hit and miss, but the ones that were good were really good. You might think that this show really wasn't helpful in letting animators start their careers, but you better hush up and pay attention to the names of the animators who became famous after What a Cartoon. Butch Hartman, Van Partible, Craig McCracken, Gendy Tartakovsky, Pat Ventura, Rob Renzetti, John McIntyre, Robert Alvarez, and Seth MacFarlane. Yes, the same Seth MacFarlane who used to have talent but threw it all away to make crappy animated sitcoms that are terrible and unfunny and are mostly popular with college students. Yeah, him. Anyway, that's a long list of animators who got famous due to this show. Granted, a lot of you might not recognize them unless you have no life enough to read the credits when you watch reruns of cartoon shows you grew up with, but it doesn't matter, it's a lot! Bottom line, this show was awesome. I'm so influenced by it that when Studio Shad's TV channel, Shad TV, is created in the future, I have an idea for a show similar to it called Whacked Out Cartoons that'll help to start the careers of animators just like What a Cartoon did. Thank you, What a Cartoon Show, for your wacky cartoons and your kick grass theme music. The next show I'll talk about is a little underrated gem. This is Sheep in the Big City. I remember watching this show a little bit as a kid, only because it didn't air that much. Anyway, if my photographic memory serves me right, this show is about a sheep who escapes from his farm and goes to the city. Eventually, he is being chased by General Specific and his sidekick, Private Public, and an angry scientist who try to catch sheep for government experiments. Being little when this show was airing, I have a hard time remembering how a lot of episodes were. I remember a lot of jokes that I didn't get, and I remember a lot of breaking the fourth wall. So, doing some cartoon math, it adds up to this show being awesome. Why? Because it reminds me of Rocky and Bullwinkle, one of my all-time favorite cartoons. Any cartoon shows that's similar to that, I'm a sucker for. That also means this show was more aimed at adults than children, but that didn't stop kids from watching it either. Unlike shows like Adventure Time and Regular Show, this show could be done in a way where it could attract adult viewers. Well, the intelligent adult viewers at least. So, Sheep in the Big City is a great cartoon. Sadly, I can't find the show anywhere. The only things I could find on YouTube were the intro and a user's positive review on it. If you can find that review, I recommend it. Anyway, if you can find this show anywhere, check it out. And let me know where it's at. Next, we move on to one of Cartoon Network's original action cartoons, Samurai Jack. As a kid, I watched this show, but I didn't like it very much. I didn't understand the story, the characters, and I was too young to appreciate all the action going on. Now, as an adult looking back on it, it's freaking awesome. The story follows Jack, who's a samurai stuck in the future and wants to get back to his home in the past. I haven't seen much since I stopped watching it as a kid, but remembering it is enough for me to see why a lot of people love this show. The action is awesome and very edgy for Cartoon Network standards. Jack is seen slicing everybody in half. You don't mess with Samurai Jack. Another great thing is his character. Jack is a really likable guy and spends a lot of his time not talking, letting his movements build his character for him. And he's voiced by Phil Lamar. You don't get more cooler than that. And there's the villain, Aku, probably one of the most underrated villains of all animation. He resembles a Chinese dragon, and he's sleek, dark, and awesome. Plus, he's voiced by the late great Mako, whose voice is perfect for the character. Bottom line, this is a great show that if I watched it again at my age, I might really love it. Finally, one of my favorite animated shows, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Cartoon Network's second original programming was a great step forward for him. Of course, this show is about Space Ghost, who has his own talk show and has a lot of interesting guests, and total chaos happens from there. What makes this show so great is how weird and wacky it is. A lot of it comes from Space Ghost himself. He's such a doofus that I actually find him funny. Also, Zorak's cynicalism also adds to the humor of this show. And the guest Space Ghost has on this show is overwhelming. Name any celebrity they've been on this show. No, I mean a good celebrity. Plus, what made this show great was it was more made for adults than children. That's why it aired so late at night. And to those Adult Swim fans out there, you have this show to thank for creating Adult Swim. Anyway, Space Ghost Coast to Coast is a show that proved Cartoon Network was a force to be reckoned with for years to come. Next, let's get to one of my favorite things that make Cartoon Network awesome. Their creative promos and bumpers. These are the little spots that aired before and during commercials that helped Cartoon Network show its atmosphere. Now, there's more to a channel than the shows they air. Promos and bumpers also help give a channel its own little style that make them different from other channels. And watching shows without bumpers and promos just doesn't feel the same to me. For those of you who understand what I mean, thanks. For those of you who don't, please X-nay on the throwing tomatoes. I hate tomatoes. Anyway, a lot of these promos feature cartoon characters interacting with each other, as well as some humans. They were mostly about the characters working at the network, and how it's not always easy as it seems. And, of course, they were hilarious. Some of my favorites include one where Yogi Bear tries to get into Cartoon Network Studios, but he doesn't have his ID, so he can't get in. Yogi Bear is. Anyway, it gets funny as the guards try to figure out who he is, making Yogi more frustrated as they keep trying. Another promo featured Aquaman and Wonder Woman about to be destroyed by the Legion of Doom, but the Powerpuff Girls come in and beat the living tar out of the Legion. What I loved about this was it was great at poking fun at the Super Friends and showing how awesome the girls are. Go girls! Then there were the Cartoon Network bumpers. You know, the little animations that told you the show will be right back and what's coming up next. Yep, those. Anyway, these bumpers featured the logo going through a lot of cartoony abuse. Who says being a logo is easy? Another thing that I found cool were the different color schemes they had for the bumpers. They had yellow for the morning, green for the afternoon, blue for the evening, and black for the night. Yeah, this was back when effort was put into bumpers, and they actually felt like they had a relation to the channel they were promoting. Another great thing about Cartoon Network were their Groovies and Shorties. Groovies were music videos that featured their cartoon characters. And Shorties were new short cartoons produced that starred classic cartoon characters. These were fun little tunes and shorts that got you hyped up for when a show was about to come on. Not to mention, the music for the Groovies weren't just good, they were really good. Like Signal in the Sky, where the Powerpuff Girls are seen in a live-action world beating up the fish balloon monster. In circles, making fun of an old Hanna-Barbera cliche. The Shorties were hit and miss, but when they were good, they were really good. And even the misses are better than the garbage Cartoon Network airs today. So, these little spots were creative little things that helped make Cartoon Network awesome. And finally, what made Cartoon Network the best channel ever was their specials and blocks. We all remember Super Chunk, a 3-hour Saturday afternoon block that showcased one specific cartoon character or show. Or, how about Cartoon Network's Cartoon Theater, a movie block that showed the greatest animated films not made by Disney, as well as some of the worst animated films not made by Disney. Then, they had specials. Like I remember when they showed the 50 greatest animated cartoons of all time. Yeah, I used to have that special recorded, and I watched it constantly as a kid. Too bad my mother taped over it. Another special I remember was the Scooby-Doo Project. Granted, I hate Scooby-Doo, but it was nice seeing the gang mock the Blair Witch Project. And there are the few blocks and specials I can think of Cartoon Network airing. Oh, I apologize. I'm getting older, so my memory is starting to fade. I, of course, forgot the greatest block of all time, Cartoon Fridays! Yes! I talked about CCF in my previous Cartoon Network video, but this block is so epic that it deserves another praising. Anyway, CCF was a block that aired on Friday nights, the best day of the week. And it aired in the evening, allowing kids who just got off of school to get a nice warm welcome to the weekend. This block often featured new episodes of our favorite Cartoon Network shows, and it was hosted by our favorite Cartoon Network characters. Wow, growing up as a cartoon fan, this was more than heaven. This was a jacuzzi in heaven, with a hamburger horseshoe for supper, and a glass of never-ending Nesquik to go along with it. Anyway, CCF was amazing. As the years went on, though, they started to change. In 2004, it became simply known as Fridays, and it featured two human hosts, Tommy and Tara. I know there was a hostess before Tara, but I can't remember her name. Anyway, these two were okay, but I really didn't see anything wrong with the cartoon characters hosting. Plus, a lot of their puppet friends were annoying. Well, at least they didn't get in the way of the cartoons. However, after Fridays ended, they replaced it with Fried Dynamite. I don't want to talk about it. But it was soon cancelled, and Cartoon Network got rid of their Friday cartoon blocks. This is really sad, but I always remember Cartoon Fridays, and how it was my Friday tradition growing up as a kid. I always loved watching it when I was done playing the N64 game of the week I always rented. And there's my second salute on Cartoon Network. Although the golden age is long past, that doesn't mean it has to be stored in an old locker in our memories. There's a channel called 90s Cartoon Network on YouTube, and he uploads a lot of old promos and commercials from Cartoon Network's golden age. I love watching his videos, and they were great reference points for me making this video. If you're interested, drop by his channel and enjoy, and be sure to thank him for bringing the memories back for us. And thank you, Cartoon Network, for being an amazing channel that made it great to love cartoons. Anyway, I'm Ben, and I'm signing out. I'm gonna go visit Mako's grave.